As the clock strikes midnight, rent will be due for many across the country. But with the impacts of COVID-19, some tenants are finding themselves in difficult positions now more than ever.
The cracks in these systems are being made really apparent with this pandemic.
Luke Ottenhoff, a freelance writer in Toronto, says he and others have received a threatening letter from the landlord Clo Park Management saying evictions can still happen when the pandemic is over. And if rent isn't paid, the landlord can take action to report a tenant to the credit reporting agencies, which, quote, in the long term can hurt your credit report, making it harder for you in the future to rent or buy. Luke says he wasn't surprised by the landlord's approach, but it's left tenants unable to afford rent in a more difficult position.
This leaves them wondering, is the rest of my life looking for housing and somewhere to live going to be impacted by these two folks who have zero compassion during an unprecedented global health crisis?
City News emailed and called the landlord at Clo Park, leaving a message. We finally got through to the property manager.
Anything you want to tell the tenants who are concerned about?
This is frightening for tenants.
Toronto was already seeing a housing crisis long before COVID-19, but the pandemic is putting further strain on renters. In response to this, Parkdale Organize started Keep Your Rent Toronto, as its name suggests, in support of those who are forced between paying rent and staying safe.
We had no hand in COVID-19 tearing a swath through our neighborhoods and through our workplaces. These are not situations that were created by us. They are situations that we have to respond to.
Currently, the province has suspended evictions even for tenants who can't pay rent. We asked the Premier about what protections are available for renters and landlords. Doug Ford calls it a difficult situation.
In a lot of cases, the landlords this is what they rely on, the people's rent to pay their bills as well. So I highly recommend communicate with your landlord, work with your landlord, and do the very best.
The province says it has $200 million available through existing programs, part of that money to help people cover basic needs such as rent. Brian Doherty says there aren't clear guidelines and the help isn't here now, as some renters are being told to borrow money to make ends meet.
That only stalls and increases the tragedy that tenants will be faced with if, in fact, they can't get access to the financial assistance that is only proposed. Just saying that we should all come together and have an understanding together does not actually seem like you are grounded in the reality of the situation.
And the concern from these tenants isn't only the rent that's due at midnight, but what long-term impacts COVID-19 will have on tenants in the city. In Toronto's Parkdale community, I'm Faiza Amin for City News.